In the heart of a bustling small town, the Willow's table was alive with energy, known for its cozy atmosphere and freshly prepared dishes. The restaurant had become a community favorite, a place where families celebrated milestones and friends gathered to unwind. It was a sunny afternoon when James Porter, a retired Marine with a lifetime of stories etched into his lined face, stepped into the restaurant. At 70 years old, James carried himself with the quiet dignity of a man who had served his country through 2 tours in Vietnam. On this particular day, as on many others, he wore his signature red MAGA hat, a simple accessory that held personal meaning for him, a nod to his beliefs and the values he cherished. The clinking of glasses and hum of conversation filled the air as James approached the hostess stand. But his presence didn't go unnoticed by Caleb Barnes, the restaurant manager. Caleb's expression soured as his gaze locked onto James's hat, the bright red emblem stirring a visceral reaction within him. Known for his outspoken stance on maintaining what he called an inclusive environment, Caleb immediately felt the hat clashed with the ethos he sought to uphold. Without hesitation, Caleb approached James, his tone sharp and unwelcoming. "Sir, we have a policy against political attire," he stated curtly. "I'm afraid I can't serve you while you're wearing that." James blinked in surprise, his calm demeanor unshaken but his pride quietly bruised. "This hat isn't meant to cause trouble," he explained softly. "It's a symbol of my beliefs, nothing more." But Caleb was resolute. "You'll have to leave," he said, his voice unwavering, hurt but refusing to escalate the situation. James nodded, turned, and walked out the door. The murmurs among the patrons grew louder as the veteran exited, some exchanging uncomfortable glances, while others simply looked away. What Caleb didn't realize, however, was that James's son, Ethan Porter, was no ordinary man. A prominent social media influencer with millions of followers, Ethan was known for his fiery passion for justice and unyielding loyalty to his family. The events that would follow, an internet storm, public outcry, and the eventual unraveling of the Willow's table, would teach everyone involved a profound lesson about respect, humility, and the power of standing up for what's right. James Porter had always been a man of principle, guided by a sense of duty and honor instilled during his early years. Born in a small town in the Midwest, he grew up with a strong work ethic and a deep respect for his country. His parents, a hardworking factory worker and a dedicated school teacher, had always emphasized the importance of giving back to the community. At the age of 18, he enlisted in the Marines, embarking on a journey that would shape him into the steadfast, humble man his community respected. Serving 2 tours in Vietnam, James witnessed the harsh realities of war firsthand, from grueling marches through dense jungles to the tense camaraderie forged in the heat of battle. His experiences left indelible marks on his character. Though he faced loss and hardship, James carried those memories with grace, using them to fuel his acts of kindness and leadership back home. His service earned him several commendations, but what he valued most were the friendships and bonds he formed with his fellow soldiers, bonds that stayed with him long after he hung up his uniform. After retiring from the military, James turned his focus to supporting fellow veterans and contributing to his community. Whether it was organizing fundraisers for local veterans groups, lobbying for better healthcare benefits, or mentoring young men and women considering military service, James's actions spoke louder than words. He became a well-known figure in his community, often called upon to give speeches on Veterans Day or to lead initiatives to support returning soldiers. In his personal life, James was equally devoted. He was a loving husband to his wife and a doting father to his children, who had grown into successful adults. James found solace in family traditions such as Sunday dinners and fishing trips with his grandchildren, which brought him immense joy. Even as his hair turned gray and his steps slowed, he remained a symbol of strength and resilience in the eyes of those who knew him. Having recently moved to the quaint town where the Willow's table was located, James looked forward to enjoying his retirement in peace. The small-town charm and friendly faces reminded him of his childhood, and he quickly became a familiar figure at local events and gatherings. From attending town hall meetings to volunteering at the local library's literacy program, James's presence was felt across the community. His polite demeanor and warm smile made him approachable, and he often struck up conversations with strangers, sharing his stories and life lessons. It was during one of his routine outings that the events at the Willows table unfolded. Dressed in a crisp button-up shirt and his signature red MAGA hat, James entered the restaurant that afternoon with no intention other than to enjoy a quiet meal. The hat, a sentimental piece of his wardrobe, represented more than politics to him. It was a reminder of the ideals he held dear: freedom, hard work, and resilience. James was well aware of the polarized views surrounding the hat, but to him, it was simply an expression of who he was. The restaurant was bustling with lunchtime patrons, the aroma of freshly baked bread and roasted chicken filling the air. James smiled politely at the hostess, who guided him toward a table near the window. As he settled into his seat, the soft chatter of diners and the clinking of utensils created a comforting backdrop. James took a moment to appreciate the atmosphere, recalling how such simple outings had become a cherished part of his new routine. But the tranquility was short-lived. Caleb Barnes, the restaurant's manager, had been observing James from the moment he walked in. Known for his assertive personality and strong opinions, Caleb prided himself on fostering an inclusive environment at the Willows table. To him, the sight of the MAGA hat was a direct contradiction to that vision. It wasn't the first time Caleb had taken issue with politically charged attire, but he felt particularly compelled to act in this instance. Driven by his own biases and assumptions, Caleb approached James with a sense of urgency. "Sir, I'm sorry, but we have a policy against political attire," Caleb announced, his tone leaving little room for discussion. James looked up, his weathered face calm but questioning. "I'm not here to make a statement," he replied evenly. "I'm just here for a meal." Caleb's expression hardened. "That hat makes some of our patrons uncomfortable. I'll have to ask you to remove it or leave." The patrons seated nearby began to take notice, their murmurs growing louder. Some exchanged uneasy glances, while others seemed to silently approve of Caleb's stance. James remained composed, his voice steady as he responded. "This hat is a part of who I am. I've served this country to defend everyone's freedoms, including yours." But Caleb was unwavering. "I'm sorry, sir, but those are the rules." Feeling the weight of the confrontation and not wanting to create a scene, James nodded quietly. He stood, adjusted his hat, and walked out of the restaurant with his dignity intact. As he left, a few patrons expressed their discomfort with hushed comments, while others remained silent, unwilling to intervene. Among the silent onlookers was a young couple who exchanged a worried glance, debating whether they should say something but ultimately choosing not to. Outside, James paused for a moment on the sidewalk, taking a deep breath to steady himself. The encounter had been brief but deeply disheartening. As someone who had fought for the principles of freedom and respect, being judged so quickly left a bitter taste in his mouth. Yet he resolved not to let the incident dampen his spirit. He adjusted his jacket, looked toward the horizon, and began the short walk back to his home, unaware that this small act of exclusion would spark a series of events that would resonate far beyond the town's borders.